Hello, everybody. It's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. We've reached another Friday, so of course, I have another Film Rec Friday ready for everybody out there. Now, we are smack dab in the middle of July, and I've put together another list of summer romances for everybody out there. This is one of my favorite themes. I do it every year, and every year I'm always so excited to find really interesting movies and old favorites that I haven't seen in years. So I'm hoping that something in this list will spark your interest. I tried to pick things from different time periods. I tried to pick different sort of genres and moods. And I think that this selection has a really nice, diverse set of themes within the whole romance genre. In any case, I hope you're able to enjoy these. You may notice that I did not include any of the Hallmark romances. That's because I do have plans for that in the next couple weeks. We are doing a Christmas in July episode so definitely stay tuned for that. In any case, as always, these films are available to you entirely for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card, and they'll be available on one of our 3 video services, CleveNet's Overdrive, Hoopla, and Canopy. So without any further ado, let's hop right into the recs. All right, kicking things off with a selection that's available on both Hoopla Digital and Canopy is 1988's Married to the Mob. Now, initially, I had picked this film due to a conversation I was having with a younger friend, she's in her early 20s, all about Matthew Modine's character in the Stranger Things franchise. She's, as I said, much younger, so her familiarity is entirely due to Modine's character in the Stranger Things series. So she sees him as sort of like this dark, very morally gray character, father figure. And my primary familiarity with him is from his earlier work in the 80s and 90s when he was kind of leading man, heartthrob status, say in films like Married to the Mob and Gross Anatomy. So it was just an interesting conversation. There was such a disconnect between the two. That's just one generation apart. So I went back, I looked through our catalog, and I found that we had this. I've watched this film a couple times over the last 40 years, I guess. Once when I was definitely a kid, and then again, I think I was college age. And I remember distinctly enjoying it both times, but then watching it again just the other weekend, I sort of saw a lot that I'd missed both other times. There's a lot going on in this movie, and it's kind of billed as, you know, sort of a ridiculous screwball comedy romance, but there's definitely more to it. One, this is directed by Jonathan Demme. He's the director of films like Silence of the Lambs and Philadelphia and Beloved. Those are more what I think of when I think of Demme's work. But you can tell just from those films, he is an exceptionally good director. When he has solid actors to work with, he produces really good things. And Michelle Pfeiffer is still one of my favorite actresses. I absolutely love her. I just think she's magnetic on screen. And she and Modine have a lot of really solid chemistry. They are our primary couple within this sort of screwball farce romantic comedy. And when I say sort of, it's an interesting genre of film as well. So Married to the Mob is kind of a Sopranos meets You've Got Mail film. Stick with me here. So you've got this whole element of the mafia going on, and all of the drama that entails. I mean, this is not super light and fluffy. I would definitely still classify it as a screwball romance, but there's some pretty heavy themes going on too. I mean, you do have murders, and you do have like some serious menacing elements within this movie, but then you've got that mafia going against sort of a standard traditional rom-com. Like, I picked You've Got Mail, Shop Around the Corner, because you've got one party of the romantic duo that's entirely in the know. He kind of knows the score. You have the other party who definitely is in the dark, has no clue what the heck is going on. She just knows she likes this guy, and it has its own set of drama. So you sort of squish those together, and you've got Married to the Mob. And it sounds kind of ridiculous and convoluted, and it is, but it's a lot of fun. The whole time, like, I was watching, I was just thinking, this is weirdly original and ludicrously entertaining. I really was enjoying myself the whole time. Uh, so, basic synopsis, now that you've got that whole, like, background story going on. We are following Angela DeMarco, played by Michelle Pfeiffer. She is recently widowed. Her husband was a member of the mob, working for this very heavy hitter within the mafia, one of the Dons. And her husband is killed after having an affair with the boss's mistress, like you do. And come to find out that mob boss is also interested in Angela. So really all she wants is out of the life. She wants to take her kid and just start over. She's part of a mafia family. That's not going to happen. So even though she leaves that life and tries to start over, everything still sticks to her. While that part of her life is going on, you've got Modine's character, who is an FBI agent. He is part of a team that's trying to take down this mafia don, and he goes undercover to sort of infiltrate Angela's life. Now, there are a lot of ridiculous elements to that, but they do have some really cute moments going on. There's a meet cute, lots of sort of hesitant interaction. You've got a lot of almost figured it out kind of moments going on too, and it's really, really funny. And you know, their actual interactions are really quite sweet, and you can sort of see the shift of how the Modine's character feels as you go along. He really does see her as just a means to an end at the beginning, but you see how he really begins to see her as an actual person. So it's definitely pretty layered, especially for a rom-com, because let's be honest, rom-coms are usually just light, fluffy, whatever, thoroughly enjoyable, but I mean, that's usually how they go, but this has so much more going on. And of course, this whole time you've got the Don, who's played by a delightful Dean Stockwell in this, trying to woo Angela to be his new mistress, since his other one was recently departed, much like Angela's husband. And, you know, there really is a sense of sort of creeping menace to him. You know that this is not someone you say no to. And even though this is a romantic comedy, like, that sense of danger is very consistent throughout any interaction you have with him. He's played for laughs a lot of the time, but that makes it almost a little creepier. And then in addition to Dean Stockwell's Tony the Tiger Russo is his wife, Connie Russo. Connie Russo is played by Mercedes Ruehl, and she is phenomenal in her role. It could easily have been just like this throwaway character, but she plays this possessive, increasingly unstable wife. And, you know, at first it's just kind of funny, but then it gets really kind of intense, and she's definitely another layer to that sort of insidious menace that you get from that side of the film. So, you know, like I said, Sopranos meets You've Got Mail is a pretty apt description. You have like a lot of intensity going on with the sort of lighter romantic elements of the story, and it just made for an incredibly different kind of watch. It was, you know, it's not at all what you would expect from like the promos that you see. And as always, I have the trailer, and I strongly recommend that you check out the trailer, because one, it's just fabulously 80s. Like, it's the 80th trailer that ever existed. But while you're watching that trailer, you definitely they don't dive into some of the like more intense dark themes that, you do see within the actual film. So anyway, if you're looking for a romantic comedy that's got some edge, like serious edge, and you enjoy sort of unexpected twists like that, I would strongly recommend Married to the Mob. I mean, you've got Michelle Pfeiffer, who is always fantastic. The rest of the cast is phenomenal. If you're younger and you're just wanting to see something with a Matthew Modine, Dr. Brenner in a totally different setting, and if you're just curious how a Jonathan Demme rom-com is, this I think is pretty indicative of what a Jonathan Demme rom-com would be. So yeah, again, Married to the Mob, available on both Hoopla Digital and Canopy. Absolute must watch. You won't regret it. All right, moving along to my next recommendation. This one's available on Canopy, and it is 2021's I'm Your Man. Now, prior to the last couple weeks, I had never heard of this movie. I knew nothing about it, but I'm so glad I checked it out. One, I discovered a super familiar face within the cast, which I had not expected. And then two, it's just a really good movie. It was really, really entertaining. Now, I'm Your Man is a German language film, so there are subtitles, but I still, as always, recommend that you still check it out. It's totally worth it. I know sometimes subtitles are a bit of a hurdle, but this one is this should be on your watch list. In any case, I'm Your Man features a story about the archaeologist Dr. Alma Felser. She's this really, really driven woman who agrees to participate in a somewhat unorthodox project in order to gain further funding for her own research. Now, unorthodox because the project is all about humanoid robots, and in this particular element of the project, she agrees to live with this robot for a period of 3 weeks, knowing that the robot is designed to be her perfect man. There's a lot that you can unpack about that, and a lot of it is actually sort of delved into within this film. In any case, the humanoid robot, I was really shocked to discover, was being played by Dan Stevens of Downton Abbey and live action Beauty and the Beast fame. One, I did not know that he was fluent in German, and upon sort of looking into things after the film was done, he's fluent in both German and French. Good for him. And like he was absolutely perfectly cast here. Like the cadence of his voice is a little bit different from a lot of the other German language natives, so that kind of fit in with the humanoid robot aspect of things really, really well. I mean, he doesn't sound like someone who doesn't know how to speak the language. He sounds like a robot trying to speak the language, which is pretty on point. Two, like it was just really, really interesting to watch, because even knowing that his character is a robot, the main characters, those two, have a lot of chemistry, like a ton of chemistry, and that's really what's at the center of this film. As I'd mentioned, she agrees to live with this robot for 3 weeks, and we see how initially she's definitely treating him as this object, but as more time passes, she really, really recognizes and grows to care for the more human aspects of him. And by the end of the film, you really are in sort of this gray area where you sort of question where humanity lies. And that's kind of the whole point. The acting is excellent within this, in addition to just the chemistry of the two leads. All of the secondary characters were really, really well done. Really, really well done. Like, I was really impressed by a couple of little twists and turns that you'll get when you watch it, that I thought were absolutely perfectly plotted out and excellently directed. And just in general, I feel like this kind of story has been told before, but I think it's executed in such a phenomenally well thought out way that this one just sort of makes it feel a little bit fresher. And I loved the ending. I won't give spoilers, but I thought it was very, very well done. So not cliche, because I definitely watched films like that sort of play with the idea of where the edge of humanity blurs. And they've ended in sort of like a trite, bow-tied way, and this is not necessarily going to be like that. So yeah, if you're looking for sort of a science fiction-y romance that's definitely thoroughly steeped in sort of like a realistic realm that just happens to have those science fiction elements, check out I'm Your Man. It's available on Canopy, and it's definitely worth the watch. Okay, last recommendation of the day. This one is available on Canopy, and it is 2013's Lucky Them. I really enjoy this film. If you are someone who likes movies about rock music, you absolutely need to check this out. It's kind of a blend of Almost Famous with those sort of, journalistic elements to it, with the silliness of Still Crazy. So, sidebar, if you haven't seen Almost Famous or Still Crazy and you like rock music, you 100% need to check them out. Bonus recommendation. But yeah, if you blend those two films together, you'd get Lucky Them. In Lucky Them, we are following Ellie Klug, who is this sort of has-been music reporter. In order to sort of revitalize her career, she decides to work up this story about her first love, who was this successful musician who just one day up and disappeared. She has no idea what happened to him. He legit just walked out of her life from one day to the next. The fans have always wondered, is he dead? Is he alive? What happened? Why? And she knows if she can track this guy down and get those answers, it's going to jumpstart her career again. She's going to be back on top, and it's the solution to all of her problems. So that right there is the beginning of what I found to be a really thoroughly enjoyable journeyman film. She is going on this quest, and she is determined to succeed, and it's all about everything that happens along the way. So, one, Ellie Klug is played by the incomparable Toni Collette. She's one of those people, if she's in a movie, I know at the very least her character is going to be phenomenally well done. She makes Ellie into such a multifaceted character. It could very easily be like paper thin, really one-sided, but you feel those layers. She's complicated, and you absolutely understand why she's where she is at this point in her career, and you can definitely get behind her. You also meet several other characters. Oliver Platt plays her boss at the newspaper. Oliver Platt is always enjoyable as well. Thomas Hayden Church plays this eccentric, wealthy benefactor of sorts who is willing to bankroll her quest as long as he's allowed to follow her around and make a documentary of the experience. Why? It's questionable. There's some reasons that become clear as the film goes on, but it's definitely entertaining anytime he's on screen. And the two of them are just wonderful together. Their chemistry, whether we're talking about romantic or platonic, is really solid and thoroughly fun to watch on screen. And Thomas Hayden Church is just always delightful. Like, he's just so odd and quirky. The characters he picks, it's always a very smart choice for him. And there's several laugh out loud moments because he brings this sort of lighthearted, quirky rich dude attitude to the film that I think it definitely needs. So you've got like a slightly more heavy tone from Collette, and then you've got this sort of like silly, joyful ridiculousness coming from Church, and the blend of those two moods works really, really well together, and it creates a really nice sense of balance. You've got a couple cameos that I don't want to spoil, but I definitely was like, whoa, I did not expect that. So keep your eye peeled for that. And, like I said, if you're one of those people who enjoys movies about the rock industry, or the journalism industry as well, because there are definitely elements of both of those things in here, definitely check out Lucky Them on Canopy. It was a lot of fun, and I definitely think you won't regret checking it out. Okay, so those were my 3 recommendations for our summer romance episode this year. If you have any recommendations for summer romances that you think we should be checking out, please comment with those below. I always like getting recommendations and being able to check those out. If you have any recommendations for themes you'd like for us to explore in the future, make sure you comment with those too. I definitely want those. Um, as always, thank you so much for joining me. I love putting these lists together. It's always such a fun opportunity to deep dive into our catalog. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out this episode. Again, thank you for joining me, and I will see you next week. Bye bye.